All right, this is High Voltage, your weekday news analysis show. My name is Odili, and you're welcome to High Voltage on Volt 104.3 FM, where we review and analyze the news and talk about issues affecting us as citizens of Nigeria, ranging from politics, health, education, security, and other topical stories making rounds in the country. We are live on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel on High Voltage News. Like, comment, and share the video. And you can also join us live on the studio by calling our phone lines. And so save our phone lines and get ready to call us 0706 048 5853 or 0915 570 8347. We'd like to hear your voice and what you think about all we'll be talking about this morning. All right, so let's take a look at the top stories in today's paper. And on this day's newspaper, Ocean PDP asked FSC, the Chief Justice, to probe suspicious letters in local government funds case. Ocean PDP asked FSC, Chief Justice, to probe suspicious letters in local government fund case. So the People's Democratic Party in Osun State asked the Federal High Court to look into some letters that appear in a case about local government money. So the PDP says the letters are suspicious, that the letters may be backdated or giving a wrong picture of what happened to local government funds. So the money issue concerns how money that the federal or state government sends to local council is released and used. So if the letters are not real, or if they are dated wrongly, then people use them to hide mistakes or hide thefts. So the judge can ask for evidence, call witnesses, or order a forensic check on the documents. So look at the paper, look at the ink, look at the stamps and the signature and everything. And then so the court can now ask for bank records, payments, vouchers, and every other thing, and look into the matter for court hearing, the criminal case, and all that. So the issue matters because the local government delivers services like waste removal, the private health, and primary education. So when local government funds do not reach the people, communities are the ones suffering. Citizens, they lose trust when documents look fake. So the courts play a very big role in keeping the public funds safe. So the media attention and civil society groups can also demand transparency and push for open records so the public can see how money moves. All right, so next on it, BOL to unlock $20 million after historic adaptation funds accreditation. BOL to unlock $20 million after historic adaptation funds accreditation. So let's look at what this headline is talking about. So it says that that someone or somebody will unlock 20 million after accreditation with the adaptation funds. The adaptation fund is a global fund that gives money to poor countries and communities to help them adapt to climate change. So this accreditation means that the local institution, agency, or country meets the rules to receive and manage the fund. So once the institution becomes accredited, the fund approves projects and releases money for climate work. So this 20 million will likely go into projects and reduce risk from floods, build flood defenses, and support farmers, support people around. Okay. So next, we also see that tributes pour in for victims of Afriland fire. Tinubu, Atiku, Sanwo-Olu, Obi, mourn. Tributes pour in for victims of Afriland fire. Tinubu, Atiku, Sanwo-Olu, and Obi mourn. So we heard about the fire that happened on Tuesday, just this Tuesday, that led to loss of lives. And so the tributes are pouring in. All right, next we have Zenith Bank's gross earnings hit 2.5 trillion naira in H1 2025, declares 1.25 naira interim dividend. Okay, moving on. Governor Mba, Enugu will use coal to generate 1,000 megawatts of electricity. Enugu will use coal to generate 1,000 megawatts of electricity. This is from the governor of Enugu State, Peter Mba. He says that the state will use its coal deposit to generate 1,000 megawatts of power. So Enugu sits on coal resources that people historically mined. So the governor wants to turn that resource into steady electricity to support industries, to support the homes, to support jobs and organizations. So generating 1,000 megawatts is a large target. It can power a mix of factories and many homes if the plant works well. So coal power gives firm electricity, but it raises environmental concerns though. So coal burns and emits the greenhouse gases and local pollution. So the state must plan for emissions control, modern technology, and rehabilitation of mining sites. These are the things they need to plan towards. So the governor says they will not treat coal as a stranded asset, meaning they will try to use the resource rather than leave it unused. So if the project proceeds, the state needs money, skilled workers, and strong project management. And private investors and federal approval may matter too. So this is the coal can bring quick power and jobs, but Enugu must pair the plan with strict environmental controls and a long-term clean energy strategy. All right, so still on it. Let's see what if there's more on this day newspaper. Okay, moving on. The Daily Times. Security, flood preparedness, state account balances top NEC agenda. Security, flood preparedness, state account balances top NEC agenda. So the National Economic Council meets and puts security, food preparedness, and state account balances at the top of its agenda. So NEC brings together the vice president and state governors. They discussed national economic and social issues. So security is a top problem in many states in the country. In Nigeria as a whole, security is a very top problem. So the council looks at ways to fight kidnappers, bandits, communal clashes, and other crimes that hurt businesses and farming. So the governors share reports and ask the federal government for help and resources. So this flood preparedness enters the agenda because the rainy season brings heavy floods. We've seen so many warning about flood cases in different states, in different communities, in different localities. So it's part of the agenda to know how to tackle the issue, to know how to ensure that people are safe in this rainy season. So the crops, also the roads are protected, the lives are protected. All right, so that's it. Customs intercept 5.1 billion naira worth of illicit drugs from India, Canada at Lagos Airport. Customs intercept 5.1 billion naira worth of illicit drugs from India, Canada at Lagos Airport. So next we see woman burns minor's private part over witchcraft suspicion. Woman burns minor's private part over witchcraft suspicion. I saw the picture and I was like, what is going on? What is this? And when we talk about the minor, we are just talking about a 7-year-old, that they used a hot knife to destroy. I saw the damage that it caused on this little girl. Like, why at this modern age you still talk about witchcraft, and this is the best way to handle cases like this? So it was really the reports. It's really a tragic case, honestly, a very serious one, a very tragic. They burning the private part because she suspects that the child is a witch. It's something, cases like this happen where superstition, fear, and false beliefs combine with weak child protection. Because imagine, because this act is a form of child abuse and a criminal offense. The report says that she has been arrested already, but it leaves a physical and psychological scars that can last for life on this child. So it's a really bad sight to behold. If you saw the picture or if you come across it, it's a really bad sight. All right, next we see that COVID-19 not totally eradicated. Medical experts urges Nigerians to be on guard. So the medical expert warns that the COVID-19 is still present and that people should remain cautious. So the expert says the virus does not disappear overnight. So new variants can appear and cases can rise if people stop testing, stop vaccinating, or stop taking simple precautions. So the advice usually it includes vaccination for vulnerable persons, good hygiene, staying home when sick, and using masks in crowded places during outbreaks. So in as much as we think that the COVID-19 is over, the experts are warning that it's still in the air, so it's something that we should avoid on our own part. We should do our own part to avoid contacting this. All right, so next, EFCC rearranged ex-power minister Agunloye over alleged $6 billion fraud. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has brought the former Minister of Power, Olu Agunloye, back to court over alleged fraud linked to power sector contracts totaling about $6 billion. So the rearrangement it means that the EFCC reopens or continues the case with fresh charges or after new evidence. So the alleged fraud may concern procurement deals, project payments, or contract awards in the power sector. The FCC says it has evidence to support the charges. So court cases like this proceed step by step. The defendant hears the charges and either pleads guilty or not guilty. So the power sector in Nigeria has many long-running challenges. Large sums are at stake, and failures in oversight create openings for corruption. So when the court handles these cases fairly, the public sees the justice system at work. But when we don't see, when it's not fair, we don't really understand the judiciary system, if they're really working or not. So the strong evidence and transparent trials help the justice system to succeed. So this case, it ties to broader questions about accountability in the power sector. So a fair and swift trial will help the public to trust more in the justice system. All right, next, federal government sets that December 31 deadline for mining COS to conclude community development agreement. So the federal government sets December 31 deadline for mining COS to conclude community development agreements. So it's giving the mining companies a firm deadline, December 31, to sign community development agreements with the communities where they operate. So the CDAs states how companies will help host communities with projects like schools, clinics, roads, and jobs, and electricity. So they define the benefits, the timeline, and dispute processes. So the government have set the deadlines when companies delay talks or when communities complain about pollution and lack of benefits. So imagine being in a community where you are exposing them to danger and then you are not helping out. So there has to be an agreement. That is what they are talking about here. The federal government, they have to sign an agreement between their host community and their organization. They should be of benefit to those places, to those communities, to those localities. They should be of benefit to them. So this deadline forces the companies to act or to face sanctions, so which may include fines, permit limits, or suspensions. So it's a good development. So for mining to help people the companies must deliver on promises. So deadline, it forces actions, but the real benefit depends on honest consultation and strict enforcement. So that's what we have. Moving on to the Guardian newspaper, we see brain drain, exhausted doctors, long wait times test public hospitals' care capacity. Brain drain, exhausted doctors, long wait times test public hospitals' care capacity. And next, we see investors avoid places where politicians control judiciary, says Goodluck Jonathan. So the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, is saying that no serious investor will put their money in a country where politicians have too much influence over the judiciary. So investors always want stability and fairness, especially when it comes to resolving business disputes. So if the courts are not independent, if they are the ones, if they're just under the federal government, under the politicians, they just do what the politicians want them to do, the investors fear that they may lose their investments due to political manipulation. So Jonathan's point is that for Nigeria to attract more foreign and local investments, the judiciary must be free from political interference. They should work on their own. They should be independent and not dependent on any political office. So, because if the politicians continue to control judges or court rulings, the economy will suffer. So it's a strong reminder that political leaders must allow the courts to function independently if they want Nigeria's economy to grow. And next, BOI, again, we see that BOI secures adaptation funds mandate to drive Nigeria's climate action. The Bank of Industry secures adaptation funds mandate to drive Nigeria's climate action. And next, NAS withdraws contract circulars as 23.9 trillion naira capital budget rolls into 2026. So this headline is about the National Assembly, and now it is managing Nigeria's huge capital budget for 2025. So it's the money used to build the roads, the schools, the hospitals, the bridges, and other projects. So the amount is very big, 23.9 trillion naira. Now, because of some delays or controversies, many of these projects may not be finished in 2025, and we have to continue into 2026. So the withdrawals contract circulars part suggests that NAS is removing or revising certain instructions or approvals that guided government contracts. So this may be to prevent corruption, duplication, or wastage of funds. So we are tired of hearing big budgets without seeing the real development. We keep hearing that this was signed, this amount of money was allocated for the construction of this and construction of that, and we end up not seeing it. So the government needs to ensure that projects are completed. When they start a thing, they should complete it. All right, so next, group raises alarm over massive data breach in Nigeria. And still on the Guardian newspaper, we see federal government unveils innovative loan scheme for retirees. Federal government unveils innovative loan scheme for retirees. So the headline shows that the federal government has introduced a new loan scheme that targets retired workers. So we know that many retirees in Nigeria struggle financially after leaving service because pensions are often delayed or too small for survival. So with this loan scheme, the retirees can borrow money to start small businesses, invest, or meet personal needs. So it is described as innovative because loans for retirees are rare. Banks often avoid them since retirees have no steady salary. So this scheme will likely give retirees hope and reduce the poverty they face after years of working. All right, so next, suspense dissolution as Fubara fails to show up after emergency rule ends. So we saw cases that the governor of Rivers State, Fubara, even after the emergency rule has ended, failed to show up in the public. He has not appeared in public or made a statement after the federal government lifted the state of emergency. All right, so moving Moving on, UBA delivers 335 billion naira PAT, 1.6 trillion naira gross earnings. And lastly, on the Nation newspaper, Nigeria US seal healthcare partnership. Nigeria US seal healthcare partnership. And next again, we see BOI granted adaptation fund accreditation. So we see why Fubara delayed return. On the Nation newspaper, why Fubara delayed return. And we also, on the Nation's newspaper, we see welcome to Kaduna. The president, President Ahmed Tinubu, is going to Kaduna this morning from Abuja. He's thanking him for the renovations and the expansion of the mosque, and every other thing that he has done in Kaduna State. All right, so that's what we have this morning on the newspaper review. Remember, if you have any opinion, anything to say about the newspaper that we've read, what we've read so far, the headlines that has been read out to you, you can call into the studio on 0706 048 5853 or 0915 570 8347. And of course, we are live on YouTube. Join us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel on High Voltage News. Like, comment, and share the video for others to be part of this morning's program. So yes, the phone lines are open. We'd like to hear what you have to say concerning the newspaper headlines. All right, so moving on. This week, we've had so many cases, so many rising cases of fire incidents in Nigeria. Just this week alone, we've witnessed devastating fires in Lagos. The tragic blaze at Afriland Tower on Lagos Highland and the massive fire outbreaks. So this morning we'll be talking about the fire incidents, the disasters happening in Nigeria. But before we move into that, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, you're welcome. Please, your name and your location.
My name is Maduene Metal. I'm calling from Abuja.
All right. Okay, please go ahead.
Just want to comment on our visit traveling to Kaduna State this morning.
Okay.
I just tried to play games at the time with it if you can or the station bring a change in that state, especially in aspect of insecurity and so on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling. Thank you. We hope that the meeting does something. Is meeting in Kaduna does something in that state, because there's a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of kidnapping and all that going on in the northern states. So his visit should not just be governors bringing people to dance for him. They should try and stress on matters going wrong, things going wrong in the states, and undo it. All right, so remember, you too can also be part of it by calling us on 0706 048 5853 or 0915 570 8347. So the issue of the fire disasters going on in the country is something we want to address this morning. We want to look at it. We want to have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's see how things, why it's still happening, while it keeps happening, what the government is doing, what we can do on our own to avoid these incidents from reoccurring. So this we were talking about before the call came in. There's been a tragic blaze at Afriland Tower on Lagos Island just on Tuesday, and the massive fire outbreaks at Mandela's Market that destroyed hundreds of shops. Lives have been lost, businesses reduced to ashes, and families left in pain. These are not isolated cases, because every year Nigeria records hundreds of fire outbreaks across markets, offices, and even residential areas. And yet, for every time, we seem shocked, as if it is something new. So let me ask you, how strong is our fire system, our fire service system? How strong is it? What role should the government play? And what responsibility do we as citizens have to do to protect ourselves and our communities? Yes, the line is open. You can call us and let us know what you think about this fire outbreak that we keep hearing. Just in a week, 2 incidents in Lagos. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, please, your name and your location.
My name is Birme Madoyan, calling from Abuja,
Okay,
the local government area.
all right, please go
I
ahead.
just want to comment on some things that are normally causes the fire disasters in some part of Nigeria.
Okay,
Number one, no maintenance for the transformers.
okay,
Nothing from the when we went to submit us, we found out that they are not even switching the time close. So this is normally contributed to the causes of fire disaster.
okay. Thank you so much for calling. All right, so these issues of it's also left for us to ensure that we are safe, that we are protected, because some of the things we do, we are risking our lives. We are risking our lives in the organizations, in the market, in places where we work. We are risking our lives because of sometimes it's as a result of poor wiring, sometimes it's as a result of recklessness, and these are the things that are leading to lives that are lost. So let me take you back to Tuesday. Let's begin with the Afriland Tower fire. So this fire started in the inverter room in the basement around 1:30 p.m. on Tuesday, September 16. So by the time it was over, the floors were gutted, the smoke filled the building, and lives has been lost. So now, yeah, the Federal Fire Service has confirmed that the death toll has risen. As at yesterday, day before yesterday, they told us that it was 4 people that lost their lives. Now we got a news that 6 more persons lost their lives, so making it 10 people. So 10 people lost their lives in this building. So most of the victims were staff of United Capital, a financial service firm on the 3rd and 4th floors. Because we heard reports that the fire service that they came, but they were able to rescue those at the ground floor. And those up there were left to be jumping the windows just to survive. But in the process of it all, 10 lives were lost. So in response to all this, the Federal Fire Service has announced a nationwide fire safety compliance audit. So they say both the public and private building across Nigeria will now be inspected. So the new nationwide task force on fire safety compliance will enforce standards, sanction the defaulters, and even train staff on emergency response. But my question is, do you believe this audit will really happen? Do you think it will happen? Because this is not the first time we've heard of a fire burning down a building, fire burning in the marketplaces, fire killing people. So now that they came out to say that, okay, they're going to ensure that they enforce this task, they enforce it and become serious with it, do you really think that the audit will happen, or is it another government promise that will fade away after the headlines? Because any tragic incident, they come out to give us an address, they address the country. But after that, after some days, after some weeks, when it looks like people have forgotten there are new trends happening, we don't see much of the promises that they made. So think about how many times we've heard about audits, inspections in the country, only for everything to return to business as usual. So aside that, let's also move on to the Mandela's market. This one just happened yesterday. On Lagos Island, the fire outbreak destroyed businesses worth millions overnight. The fire began around 9 p.m. It spread so quickly that emergency responders, they struggled all night to contain it. So according to the National Emergency Management Agency, about 200 shops were completely destroyed. The fire started from a faulty changeover switch in one of the buildings before spreading rapidly. So the emergency responders, both the federal and the Lagos State fire services, plus the LASEMA and even the police, battled through the night before it was finally contained. But in this case, no life was lost. Only one person was injured from the smoke inhalation. So one person injured, no life lost, compared to the one that happened on Tuesday. So how do we reduce this risk in our markets? Should government step in with stricter building and safety rules? Or should market associations take a responsibility themselves? Should organizations, private company owners, public company owners, what are they supposed to do to ensure that there's no fire outbreak in their buildings? Because these are people that just went to work in the morning and they could not return because of something that could have been avoided. So what can be done? Because when these 200 shops vanish in just one night, it's not statistics. They're not telling you 200. It's people's livelihood. These are things people use to survive. They go to their shops to open up their shops and make sales. But now 200 shops burnt just like that. So we are talking of the food on the table that are gone. And beyond these specific incidents, beyond the one that happened on Tuesday, beyond the one that happened yesterday, we need to ask ourselves, how ready are our fire services? When we call them, how quickly do they arrive? These fire services, how quickly do they arrive? Have you experienced anything like this? Maybe fire around your area. And before the fire service, before they respond, everywhere is already burnt. Because we want to know where it's all coming from. In as much as there can be carelessness in some organization, but what are the fire service? What are they doing about it? How do they respond? Are they fast? And when they even respond, do they have enough trucks? Do they have enough? Do they have enough equipment and enough personnel to handle this kind of fire outbursts? Do they have it? Because we've had cases of some of these fire service people coming and there's no water. They carry trucks around without water. We've had cases like that. And when they finally arrive late, there's little or nothing they can do. There's little or nothing they can do. So the government, like what exactly can they do? So because this shows systematic problems that go beyond just bravery or willingness of the firefighters themselves. So imagine people at the Afri Tower, jumping from the window. Meanwhile, the report said that the fighters, they were around. They were able to rescue those on the ground floor. I was thinking that the trucks are supposed to have something like a ladder that can rescue people in no matter how long the building is. So if this fire service lacks the tools they need, who is failing? The government that should fund them, or the leaders of the service who should plan better? Because this is not something we can avoid entirely. One way or the other, we might still be experiencing these fire outbreaks, the fire disasters and all that. But what about the response units? What are they going to do when cases like this come out? What are they going to do to ensure that little or no life is lost, or less property is destroyed? So join the conversation on 0706 048 5853 or 0915 570 8347. Because we really need to understand. We need to know if what is going to happen, how they are going to do it better. The solution to all these problems occurring in the country, the fire happening, incidents happening every time. What is the solution? What do they have to do? So the Controller General of the Federal Fire Service has directed the investigators to probe into the Lagos fire outposts and review safety systems in the building. So it says that findings will be made public and recommendations implemented without delay. So the recommendations given to them will be implemented without delay. So he also commended the new Federal Fire and Rescue Act, which promises stricter accountability, better prevention, and routine safety audits. But let's be honest, do we really need new laws? Or do we just need to enforce the ones already on ground? Because what good is another act if nobody is held accountable for negligence? And again, these investigations will really lead to change or just end up in dusty files on the government shelf. And when we try to blame the fire service as well, we also have a role to play. We as citizens, as individuals in the country. So this fire safety is not just about the government. How many of us know how to use a fire extinguisher? Because it's something we need to learn. How many markets, how many offices, how many organizations have working extinguishers? The alarm, the clear exit routes, and all that. Because sometimes the tragedy is not just the fire itself. It's not just it. But the panic and lack of being prepared that makes escape very difficult. So we are not trained on this. We are not trained on what to do when there's a fire outburst. We do not even know, we are lost. We don't know when fire starts burning, we don't know what the next step to take. So it's something as individuals that we need to learn on our own. Even when we depend on the government to do their part, we need to do our own part to ensure that we are safe, to ensure that the buildings are protected, the properties are protected, lives are protected. But the main thing is that do you think that Nigerians really take this safety seriously? Do they take this fire safety serious? Or do we only think about it after a tragedy has happened? After it has happened, we start thinking about it, and that's all. It comes and goes. Because let's look at, aside the fire incidents, we also see what happens on the roads. We see the incident that happens on the waters. Do we take safety serious as citizens, as individuals? Do we take it serious, or we just feel that it's not going to happen to me? Because I understand sometimes Nigerians can be so religious that we believe that what happened to this person cannot happen to me. Can we learn to apply safety measures in everything that we do? So when you build a house, when you build an organization, when you build any building, ensure that there's a fire extinguisher around. There's an alarm that once fire starts somewhere, it starts ringing and everybody's alerted. So these are the things that we can do on our own to ensure that we are protected. And every now and then, we also keep hearing of people who are drowned, who died on the water as the boat capsized and all that. So it's general. The safety issue is a general case in Nigeria. We keep emphasizing, we keep talking about wearing a safety jacket, and all that. And we still see people every day climbing these boats without any safety jackets. So let's actually balance this, because sometimes the fault is ours as individuals. And though, yes, we expect the government to respond fast, but we should do something on our own. We should ensure that we are working to be safe. All that we are doing is to, we are not exposing ourselves to danger. What about the road accidents that keeps occurring? What is the causes of these road accidents that's endangering lives? Most times it's avoiding the traffic rules. You see people driving against the traffic. So it can be from the government, it can be from the individuals. So both need to find a solution to this. Both need to do something to ensure that everyone is safe. The response unit of the government should be very fast, very quick, and not just something that there's a delay. You call on the fire service, then you see them 1 hour, 5 hours later. When people have died, that's when they start coming. So something needs to be done in the country. Honestly, we need to do something about it. We need to do it as individuals. So please remember that this week's Lagos fires, they are not isolated. Remember that they are part of a national pattern from Lagos to Onitsha. Because it's not just there. We keep hearing of fires in markets in Onitsha and other areas. From Enugu to Port Harcourt, stories. So it's not just Lagos that happened this week. So fire keeps coming back into our headlines. It keeps coming back. So it is time for change. The government needs to equip the fire service. The buildings must meet safety standards. And we as citizens must take responsibility for our own spaces. So a small step today, like buying an extinguisher or checking your wiring, can save lives tomorrow. It can save lives tomorrow. So don't be the person that doesn't care about how the things are done in their buildings, how the wires, how the fixing. You just call anybody to come and be fixing things in your house. Don't be that person that doesn't care. Be sure that you are safe. Be sure that people around you are safe. So as we close this morning, I want you to keep it in mind that it is the responsibility of the individuals, both the individual and the government, to ensure that people are protected, people are safe. So thank you for staying with us this morning, and also for being part of the conversation, as our time is almost here. So if you missed any part of the show, if you missed, and you can get the replay on our YouTube channel on High Voltage News. So don't forget to subscribe, share, and join the community. Like our videos. So High Voltage is your weekday news analysis show from Mondays to Fridays by 9 a.m. So join us again on Monday on Volt 104.3 FM with more headlines, more analysis, and more of your voices. Till then, have a wonderful week. Happy weekend. Enjoy your weekend. My name is Odili.
Welcome to Volt 104.3 FM, where music meets the voltage. And enjoy the show. Alex Iwobi gets the ball out to the left-hand side. The delivery comes in. Oh, it's a great goal! Entertainment. Awesome programs exclusively on
Volt 104.3 FM.
Hello, Enugu. Have you heard? Volt 104.3 FM is granting small businesses in Enugu a chance to be heard and to be known. Let us help you advertise your business for as low as 2,500 naira per spot. If you pay 50,000 naira for 20 spots, we will give you 10 spots for free. For more inquiries, visit Volt 104.3 FM at 64 Osobolo Street by ESBS Junction, Enugu, or call our marketers on 0815 377 7121 or call 0703 135 5946.
Volt 104.3 FM.
104.3 FM, where music meets the voltage. Your feel-good music right here.
Volt 104.3 FM.
Further to our earlier announcements, the Enugu State Internal Revenue Service wishes to inform the general public that full enforcement for fake vehicle number plates, new number plates, and expired vehicle registration papers will commence from 15th August 2025. Motorists are advised to ensure that their vehicles, tricycles, and motorcycles are duly registered with authorized number plates and their vehicle papers renewed without further delay to avoid penalties and other legal repercussions. Kindly note that you are in default if you don't have a genuine vehicle number plate or no number plate, or your vehicle registration paper has expired. The penalty is 10,000 naira, which must be paid into an ENSG e-ticket collection account presented by the enforcement team and default ticket vendor. We urge all motorists to cooperate with this directive and to visit the nearest motor licensing office of the Enugu State Internal Revenue Service to obtain their genuine number plates and renew expired vehicle papers. We appreciate your cooperation